Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 55 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Today, my guest will be Professor Mike Moses, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Pedro Sauer, and we'll be getting to that in just a moment. But before we get to that, I want to do our Jiu-Jitsu quote and a Meet the Listener segment. So the quote is, "Jiu-Jitsu is the only art that allows you to win a fight without hurting your opponent. I use striking techniques to open the way for submissions. My objective is not to knock anyone out. I don't want to hurt my opponents. I only want to make them tap so they can go home and train again." And this, of course, is from Damian Maia, who's absolutely on a roll right now in the UFC and who's always been such a great example of jiu-jitsu in action and an example of a classy, awesome jiu-jitsu representative. So congratulations, Damian. Keep up the good work. Okay, on to our Meet the Listener segment. Wanted to do another one of these. These have been really popular. So today we'll be meeting Dwight Triplett, also known as Trip. So let's meet Trip now. Okay, Trip. Hello, how are you, sir?
Hey, hi, Marty. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for being available.
Oh, my pleasure.
So if you would just share with us where you're from, Trip, and where do you train?
As far as birth, I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but presently as we speak, I reside in Southfield, Michigan. I train at Kego Harbor Jiu-Jitsu through the Gracie banner. Instructor is Don Cook.
Don Cook, and I've heard some great things about him. Share with us one or two things that's really great about training there and with Don.
Oh, man, the Gracie organization is phenomenal. I've known about them for years. Being with this particular offshoot it's just great. Their attention to detail, their structure, their benchmark as far as overall jiu-jitsu. As far as I'm concerned, it's something that all academies shoot for. It's really very avant-garde.
Wonderful. And, excuse me. And I believe I understand you served in the Marine Corps. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm kind of an old-timer, though. I was in the Vietnam era. But, yeah, I proudly served the Marine Corps. Absolutely.
Well, thank you for serving. I always want to give my props to our veterans for sure. So
thank you so much.
Sir. All right. So tell us about your time when you're not training, Trip. What do you do when you're not on the mat?
Well, I'm on the mat 6 days a week, usually two a dayers. Outside of that, I'm involved as far as weight training, cardio, nutrition. My wife and I, we do that together, so we're lovebirds in that particular arena. And that takes up a lot of time, and especially the way we do it, we like to, on the nutrition side of the house, we like to prepare our meals ahead of time. So that takes the whole weekend because we cook about a month ahead and freeze up everything. So we definitely eat healthy.
It sounds like it's quite a priority, and you're certainly organized in your approach.
Yes, sir.
All right. So tell us, thank you for being a listener. What do you like most about the podcast?
Oh, man, this is great. I mean, you seem like you've touched all walks of life. It's great to hear the diversification from other individuals. As mentioned, you talk to everybody, and I think you do an outstanding job. I'm very excited about this opportunity. I'm just, I'm low on the totem pole, but I appreciate it.
Oh, man, my pleasure, my pleasure. And anybody you want to shout out to or recognize, anything like that?
Yeah, thanks. My instructor, I call him the Honorable, the Gentleman, Mr. Don Cook. He falls under the lineage with Henner and Huron Gracie, so I'd like to give a shout out to those guys too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, sir, for giving us a little glimpse of your life and who you are, and thank you very much, and appreciate you listening.
Marty, thank you so much, and God bless you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Hope you enjoyed meeting Tripp, and thank you, everyone, for being a listener. I do appreciate the support for the show. Okay, on to our featured interview for today. Professor Mike Moses is a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Pedro Sauer. He actually has black belts in 5 different martial arts. He's the owner and head instructor of Evolve Academy of Mixed Martial Arts in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I recently had a chance to meet Mike a couple of months ago out at the Gracie Academy in Torrance, California. And Mike is just an exceptional person, very knowledgeable, very humble, and very insightful. He's had a very long and interesting background in the martial arts, including a lot of executive protection work with celebrities, and he does share one story about this in the interview. He's a former Marine and a very successful competitor in Jiu-Jitsu as well. So I know you're going to enjoy learning more about Mike. So without further ado, let's talk to Mike now. Okay, I'm speaking with Mike Moses. So, Mike, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for taking time to talk to us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I recently had a chance to meet you in person out at the Gracie Academy, and we'll talk in a couple of minutes about what you were doing there and what that was all about. But for now, let's go into, I know you've had a long and interesting martial arts background, so if you would just share with us kind of that whole journey, how you got started, where that's taken you over the years, what it's been like, and brought you to where you are today.
Wow. So how much time do we have now? No, I'm joking. I'll try to sum it up, and I guess the highlights would be basically what I'm doing now. So, when I was 5, I started with Taekwondo, went on to Shotokan, Kempo, kickboxing. All that happened until I was about 14 years old, and most of it happened in Germany, where I became really heavily involved in it because my dad was in the Army and doing tournaments and stuff there. I became pretty good at the tournament circuit. And my dad actually started me off in martial arts because I was always the small guy. Yeah, so I continued on until I moved back to the States. And when I got back to the States, I went ahead and looked for stuff to continue my martial arts journey, but I took a hiatus from it from probably 14 years old till I got in the Marine Corps, which was about 5 years break, 5 or 6 year break until I got back in the Marine Corps, and then I started it again. But throughout the years, since I was 5 years old, I've been, studying martial arts and looking for what I like to say, the most practical martial arts. Which taken my journey to a lot of different arts. So anyways.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been a lifelong martial artist and certainly explored a lot of different arts. I think I read you have a black belt in 5 different arts.
Yes, sir. And basically that was why, because every time I would get a black belt in an art, it felt like I learned everything except how to really defend myself. One of the funniest stories I have, I think I put it on my website, is I was brown belt champion of Europe, and my best friend actually trained with me. And he was an orange belt, and I was a brown belt. And, we were in class, and I would demolish him in class. Boom, 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 boom. But we actually got in a real confrontation on the playground. I think it was over a girl, matter of fact. And the side kick that I could break 3 or 4 boards with at the time, I did that to him, and he walked right through it. And I didn't know what he had done to me, but years later when I heard a UFC commentator say ground and pound, I realized that's exactly what happened to me when I was 11 years old. I got ground and pounded by this bigger kid who was my good buddy. He just walked through my sidekick. And then and there, I realized that, man, all this stuff I had learned in the dojo didn't really transfer even over to a playground confrontation. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Actually, I had nightmares for years and years and years. Actually, until I learned jiu-jitsu, the nightmares went away.
Wow, interesting. That's very interesting, and you're not the first to report or talk about an experience like that. We have so much confidence in the stuff we've been learning and watching movies and different things. This is it. This is the art, and not to knock on any art, but sometimes the reality is very different. And for a lot of us, we have an experience like that really just opened our eyes completely and stayed with us for a long time and motivated us to seek out other things.
Yeah, I think that was the neatest thing about my journey. And everybody asks about my background in martial arts. I really don't even want to put emphasis on the learning I had prior to meeting Frank Cucci and all the guys down in Virginia Beach, because it felt like once I walked into Frank's school, like all that stuff I had learned, I just pretty much, except for the discipline, flexibility, the work ethic, all those things that I learned as far as what I would use in a real confrontation pretty much went out the door. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. So tell us about meeting Frank and the guys in Virginia and kind of how that went.
Well, that could be a Hollywood movie. I actually was in the Marine Corps and ended up training reservists and using the range. I can talk about it now because, SEAL Team 6 is out there. But at the time, it was the most secret unit in the military, and I got to use their range and all their different facilities, which was right next door to us. So I ended up meeting a lot of these SEAL Team 6 guys. And the funny story about Frank is him and another gentleman named Pat Trey would go around and try to find the most effective martial arts paid for by our government. They would go to all these different schools around the world and come back and figure out what would be the best for the SEALs to train in. So they got exposed to Dan Inosanto, Master Chai, and the Gracies before anybody around had even heard of the Gracies. So they discovered it, and they got a head start on everybody on actual, MMA that we see today. So it was like the birth of MMA for me, and being in the right spot at the right time and being able to recognize that these guys were doing some of the most revolutionary things I had seen at the time. I stopped what I was doing and jumped on board right away. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. What a great opportunity for you. And Frank Cucci, I have the utmost respect for him. I had him on the show a while back too. So if you're listening and haven't heard that, certainly check out. No,
I listened to Frank's podcast. It was neat. And it's funny that Frank, I'm telling you, if you told me there was aliens on Earth and they're walking amongst us, and I would say Frank's one of them because his physical abilities and things that guy can do. He always talks about, himself in a very meek manner, but I mean, that guy is heads and shoulders above most people I've ever seen in the martial arts community. And he's very, very, very humble about his skills. But yeah, I listened to the podcast. It was funny, but I'm telling you, Frank is a special guy when it comes to the martial arts.
Indeed he is. And like you said, he's very humble, but truly an amazing and very talented individual. So how long were you there with Frank and those guys, and how did it develop from there, Mike?
Yeah, so, once I discovered Frank's Academy, I just immediately started training with Frank. And about 4 years later, the Marine Corps was going to move me. So I got out of the Marine Corps to work for Frank because I didn't want to stop training martial arts with Frank. I had 10 years in at the time. Everybody thought I was crazy, but, you know, I've never really done anything with the thought of the future or money or anything like that. I really just followed the passion I had. So I jumped out of the Marine Corps and started working for Frank, and ended up working for Frank for 2 more years, and then moving on to DC with Mario Yamasaki to help him build his school up. But during those times I was with Frank, I got into MMA. We did a lot of fights and jiu-jitsu tournaments and all that stuff. So became a real avid competitor, which I think, looking back now, it was more of us, again, being at the right place at the right time. We had something that nobody else had, and we loved testing it. You know what I mean? So the martial arts during that time was still in the embryo stage. The UFC came out, and we were doing the UFC stuff before anybody else was. So in that area, we pretty much had started setting up these like mini UFCs. We call them Virginia Free Fighting Championships, and all our guys would fight in it. And of course, you know, every single time our guys would win it. And I met Mario because he was a ref for all of it, you know, and this was before Mario Yamasaki became a UFC ref. He would come down and ref all our MMA matches, and we became good friends. So, you know, years later, I went ahead and came up to DC, and this is where I ended up staying.
Nice. You also spent some time with Master Lloyd Irvin.
Yeah, Lloyd, I met at a tournament that we had in Virginia Beach. We had the neat thing is, like I said, it could be a Hollywood movie during those times. We were training under a blue belt, Frank Cucci, of course, and all of us were white belts, and we didn't know how good we were or how bad we were. So we had these guys up here. Mario and Leo Dalla had a team, an actual jiu-jitsu team that wanted to come down and compete against us. So we set a tournament up in Frank Cucci's school, and all of us competed against each other. And I think Lloyd was the only one from their team that won. And we were blown away by that because we didn't really know how good of jiu-jitsu guys we were. You know, we were all, and I still have videos of that old competition. It's hilarious because you see all these guys wearing these white judo tops and no bottoms because we couldn't even find a company that would give us, you know, jiu-jitsu gis back then. All they were judo gis, and we were piecemealing it. But yeah, that's when I met Lloyd. Lloyd came down, and like I said, he was really the only one on their team that won, and we were like pretty impressed with Lloyd. So our relationship started there, and it grew when I came to DC, and we ended up becoming really good friends. And you know, I got into the security world, and when I got into the security world, I had my martial arts as a secondary thing. But even though it was secondary, I put a lot of time in it and created some incredible competitors. So our competition side became very, very strong. And, you know, through guys that were with my team, we went around to Grappler's Quest and all these other grappling tournaments and became one of the top teams around. And Lloyd and I were still friends, and he came up with a great idea to combine forces, and this was the start of the Lloyd Irvin Association. And through the years, he opened the doors to all my guys, and you know, even today he still opens the doors to all my guys. But through the years, my interests in martial arts changed from competition to more self-defense based. Mm-hmm. So you know, our affiliations went our own ways, and Evolve Academy just basically was on its own for probably the past 4 years now. So until we just joined forces with the CTC with Henry Gracie. Right.
And being on your own, you were able to build up a very successful school. I think you've got over 450 students, and you teach a variety of things like your personal defense systems, Thai boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, primal skills, fitness, and women's self-defense. So you certainly have a lot going on. And Tell us, what do you think has made you so successful in building up a school with that many students and everything you've been successful at, Mike?
Yeah, I think the success to me was always based off the passion of martial arts. You know, I've always been a very tiny guy. You know, I graduated high school and went into the Marine Corps. I was 113 pounds, and I gained 3 pounds when I was in boot camp. You know what I mean? So I was
wow, yeah.
Yeah, so I was always that guy looking for the arts that would actually help me in a real confrontation. And, you know, just having that passion to actually help the little guy, I think, has helped me through discover what actually works, what actually can help somebody that doesn't actually have, you know, not only the weight or power behind their body and technique, but actually, you know, anybody that can just walk and talk could actually defend themselves in a situation through these arts, you know. So I think the passion of that and being able to look at the ultimate goal and make it, you know, so everybody can do the martial arts and everybody can defend themselves. I think that's what led me to success, you know. I don't honestly think I'm successful, you know, because I compare myself to other people around me, but success is determined by the individual. You know what I mean? So
certainly.
I've never really looked at me being successful in the sense that, man, there's guys around me doing way more than me. You know what I mean? But I live an incredible life, and I always have since I got out of the Marine Corps. So I guess I was successful the day I jumped out of the Marine Corps and chased my dream. Even though I was eating beans and rice and lived through some times where I couldn't pay my bills or any of those days, you know, the success was always, to me, I was always successful once I just started doing things that I wanted to do. You know what I mean? So
yeah, following your own path.
Yeah, following my own path, and you know, the money and all that stuff sort of came as a secondary thing, but I mean, I could lose it all today. You could take it all away and I would still be doing exactly what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's beautiful. That's what it's all about, brother.
Yeah. And it's been an incredible life. So
yeah. Before I forget, let me just say thanks for serving in the Marine Corps.
Oh yeah. Appreciate it. It was probably one of the funnest times of my life. And if you're a kid out there listening to this and you don't know where you're going, I tell you what, join the military, because they gave me life skills, you know what I mean, and showed me how to actually survive and do things on my own, and the things that weren't taught to me when I was young. My parents split up, so I was basically raised by my friends and hung out on the streets a lot. And, you know, to get out of high school, it took me 13 years. I mean, I go back now and people are surprised that I'm doing what I'm doing, you know what I mean? So a little bit of a shock to them, because I was that guy in high school that, you know, the counselors gave up on because I wasn't going anywhere in life. So the Marine Corps actually gave me a path, and I know I hear the story all the time, coming from nothing. Don't get me wrong, I didn't come from nothing. My parents did a great job as far as feeding me and clothing me, but learning skill sets, the military actually gave me those things, you know, so.
Awesome. Sounds like it was a great move for you. I've been meeting a lot of people in jiu-jitsu recently that are former Marines. So shout out to the Marine Corps and all the branches of the military. Awesome. Oh
yeah, and it's a passion for me when I see the military in my academy. So we still use military terms here, and if you're a Marine, you get a huge discount here. If you're in the military, you get a discount too. But you know, I still love the Corps and what it's done for me, and still try to take care of my Marine Corps brothers out there. So
awesome. So talking a little bit more about success, what we were just on, I know a lot of people measure success with money. A lot of other people, as far as jiu-jitsu, measure success on how many people you can beat on the mat. But, you know, it's very refreshing when I meet people that have the attitude of the more people they help on the mat, the more of a success they are. So I encourage people to really start thinking of in those terms, because it's just so much more of a fulfilling way to look at things.
Oh, 100%. And I think it took me years to realize that, because I was, you know, the guy that liked competing and liked the medals and got tons of medals here. But when I realized, man, that I can take an athletic guy, and any real jiu-jitsu instructor can probably take an athletic guy and make him into a great competitor. But what's hard is taking that mom or dad and making them into a student that'll, stay on the mats for a long time. Not only that, take that person and make them confident enough to defend themselves in a real life confrontation. Now that to me is an incredible instructor when you can do that. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. And not to take away from people that do compete. I mean, that's certainly a fun endeavor, and I'm not saying people that shouldn't compete, but I feel like it's just a whole different world when you do what you just said, take people, ordinary people, and build the skills and the confidence into them. So let me ask you, after being so successful, I know you don't like to describe yourself that way, but being so successful and building up a huge school with a lot of students, what made you, well into your career and success, decide to go back and join with the Gracie Academy, go through their instructor program, and become a certified training center?
Well, let me go back real quick about the whole competition, and I don't want anybody to get the whole idea that I'm bashing competition or anything. I think it's an integral part of self-defense. Understand that. And I still have people that do mixed martial arts here and do all the IBJJFs. I got world champions training here, this and that. My competition is secondary, though, to building the mom and dad that wants to come in here, has a 40-hour day job or a 40-hour week job, and they want to learn self-defense. They're the primary focus at my academy. But, yeah, we still got some hardcore competitors, and I love competition because, again, it is the proving ground to what your techniques are, and that person across from you is trying to stop you from doing it, which you can't really simulate in the schools, because no matter what you say, if you and I get on the mats and we put gloves on, I'm never going to attack you the way I would if you were a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, very true.
I don't want anybody to think I'm bashing competition, but I think there's a place for it. In my academy, it's secondary to the building of individuals that wouldn't be able to defend themselves. I put those on the priority. But yeah, we still have incredible competitors here, and we still focus a lot on the mixed martial arts as well. Going back to the ICP, when I met Henner was only about 2 years ago. Frank Cucci had been with him for a while then, and they invited me to come to their training for the police officers, the GST. And then I went to a couple of those, the GSTs, and just was blown away by what Henner had going on, and just the curriculum and the model that they have that matched so well with what Evolve Academy stood for. At the time, I was sending mixed messages with my jiu-jitsu, because you would come in the door and I would teach you a little bit of self-defense, and then we would throw you on the mat to roll. You know what I mean? So it was so much of the mixed messages going on. So when Henner showed me what he had going on and Frank showed me what he had going on, it just totally matched, the missing piece of Evolve Academy. We have an incredibly successful personal defense system, which is a stand-up program. But my jiu-jitsu was successful in a sense that, we had a lot of top competitors and it's real big, but there was no real, message that was solid in that program, in a sense that, one day the competitors would want to do this and I'm teaching self-defense, and the new guy would love it, but the competitors would hate it. You know what I mean? So I really had to take a step back and look at what my message was to the public. And I think the CTC tells everybody what I'm about now. So it was a move to me that just separates my academy from everybody else. And it's a perfect merge for me, per se, because I am about self-defense, so.
What was it like going through that and doing that live portion out in LA?
Well, it's hilarious because I still, and since I've gotten back, I think I made a couple of videos out there and, talk about the ICP, and I still get calls from everybody dogging me out, even some of my closest friends that own academies. But I just ask them the one question: have you looked into it? Nah, I saw bits and pieces of this or this. I said, man, when you look into this thing, you will realize how intense this is. Not only the course, but the combative, the 36 moves that you have to learn, but how well you have to learn them. But not only that, the instructorship portion and what Henner and the guys out there have developed into making you or anybody into an incredible instructor. And if you're not doing it the way they want it done, they're not going to pass you, man. It is a intense course. And what I love about it is now, after I've been through this and seen the whole picture and the whole thing, I honestly can tell you that when I heard the stories about, CTC before and then seeing it live and in action, I really didn't think that it was any different than any other association. But now that I'm on board and, went through all the ICP and stuff, I've never, ever seen anything like this in the martial arts community. And, I was with Taekwondo, I was with Shotokan, I was with Kempo. I've been through all these different associations and affiliations. I've never seen any association that takes you from zero and takes you as far as you want to go, as fast as you want to go, like, Henner and the Gracie Academy do. So it's something to me that is going to just multiply so fast that people are going to be like, how did this happen? Like 5 years from now, you're going to just see CTCs everywhere, and people are going to wonder what's going on. It's because these guys have a model that is a win-win for everybody. So anyways, I can't say enough about them. It's just incredible to me. It's like discovering jiu-jitsu all over again. That's what it's like.
Man, that's beautiful. That's an awesome way to put it. I can't agree with you more about just how not only intense it is, but just the way it's organized and just how phenomenal the whole vibe and culture is. With most organizations, you certainly have some great people in them, some good and bad, like with most things. But I swear, every time I go visit any CTC or run into people from that organization, they've just been just amazingly nice, humble, great people that you want to be around. And it's just been really, really great being a part of that.
Yeah, like I said, it's the total model that I love for Evolve. The feel and the culture like you're talking about is what we've always stressed, and it matches the Gracie Academy to the T. Actually, they're doing it 10 times better than me, of course, but that's what I want it to be, And like you said, that vibe is incredible, and just everybody out there is neat. But any CTC I've been to, even before that, I felt the same thing like you said. But the video that they shot after the ICP talks a lot about these lower-ranked instructors, and, that was a controversy. But, man, that course right there, if you're not up to speed, they don't promote you. They don't let you open up anything. So these instructors that have these CTCs are very well trained, and I'm just so impressed with the whole program, So
I am too, and I think it's really great having Professor Sauer as well as Hickson, coming in and aligning. I mean, just really think it's going to be so great for jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah, that was a neat thing too. Seeing, of course, Pedro was the person that gave me my black belt, and he's the one that started our whole journey off down in Virginia Beach with Frank Cucci. So that right there is nothing but a bonus on top. So
you won't find a better person than Master Sauer, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's incredible instructor, incredible martial artist on the mat, off the mat, and his jiu-jitsu's off the charts.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I could tell you, like I said, you could make a movie on the time I was down in Virginia Beach and what started during that time, and seeing all these guys involved in the arts now and where they're at. But it was something I'm not sure that it could ever be duplicated, because it was just such a unique time. And to meet Pedro then and see this guy, Pedro was so incredible, because he was, if you said he was a lawyer or a doctor, more people would believe that than a jiu-jitsu guy. You know what I mean? Because the guy walks around. He's so, if you ever see him in his civilian clothes, he's so presentable. great looking guy and speaks very well. And then this guy can just ball you up, you know, so it's hilarious.
That's great. That's great. Let's shift a little bit now, Mike, and tell us a little bit about your time off the mat. Do you have any hobbies that you enjoy besides jiu-jitsu? And tell us a little bit about your family, and do they train?
Oh, yeah. Well, off the mat, I do a lot of, I did. Now I'm pulling myself back, but I got into the security world through the martial arts. So my time off the mat, the time I spent off the mat usually was doing security jobs. So that's taken me all over the place. And like I said earlier, you know, coming from the start I had and being able to use the arts and use them to give me a job that takes me some cool places and see some cool things, you know, the Grammys, the Emmys, you know, flying on these private jets, you know, being 150 pounds and 5'9", and being a personal security guy for some of the most famous people in the world because of martial arts. You know, that right there is just a cherry on top of the cake there. And, you know, just that's what I usually do on my free time. Other than that, I pretty much hang out, you know, ride skateboards. I like longboarding. And then I spend time with my 8-year-old. He lives in Montana, and I live here in D.C. His mom and him live in Montana. He loves jiu-jitsu, but they don't have a jiu-jitsu school. They're out, you know, that's presentable to her out there. So for right now, he only does jiu-jitsu when he's here with me and in the summers and, you know, during Christmas time. Other than that, I fly out there. But, yeah, that's about it for hobbies is, I guess, just chilling and hanging out with him and longboarding. Other than that, I work, and I love being at my academy. I call my security jobs work, and, you know, of course, my hobbies in play is the martial arts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. You mentioned some of your adventures that you get to do with the Grammys and different things and jets. Can you share one story that comes to mind with your security work that's kind of put you in the glamorous place like that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the coolest stories, and it really relates back to the martial arts, is I got a call to take this world famous cello guy across Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all the stands. And he was doing what's called a Silk Road tour. His name's Yo-Yo Ma, and I was going to be his number one security guy. So I ended up spending 2 weeks with that guy, carrying his $1 million cello across all those places. And it was unique because I tell the story. We were with a bunch of musicians, and they were the top musicians in America. Most of these people had been to Juilliard. You know, they were all violinists and just the top guys in their endeavor. You know what I mean? Some of them played for the Boston Symphony. I mean, I can't even tell you what kind of talent we had as far as musicians going across the Silk Road. But I was Yo-Yo Ma's personal guy, so I had to hang with him the whole time. And after every concert, everybody would disappear, and they would go to the bar. Of course, Yo-Yo Ma would go to his room, and I'd have to follow him up there. And then Yo-Yo would spend another 45 minutes playing on his cello, but he would play these specific chords over and over and over. Just kept playing these specific chords over and over and over, to the point that it was so annoying listening to it after 2 weeks. So I get back here, and there's in my school, there was a music teacher at a local high school that trained with me, that knew I went with Yo-Yo Ma, and he wanted to hear these incredible stories about Yo-Yo Ma because the guy was like, you know, to him, you know, just basically a superhero. So I started telling him the stories, and, you know, I told him about the story about Yo-Yo would never go to the bar. He would go back up to his room and play his cello again. And the guy asked me, was he practicing for the next day? I said, no, he kept playing these things over and over. He goes, well, hum it to me. So I hummed it to him. He goes, oh, stop. Like he had just basically heard a miracle. I said, what's wrong? He goes, you're not going to believe this. He goes, those are the basic chords that I teach somebody that's learning music from day one. I said, why would Yo-Yo Ma sit there for 30 to 45 minutes every night and play these basic chords. That's what I asked the musician. And he tells me that without these basic chords, the rest of the music's never going to sound as good. So Yo-Yo Ma, instead of going to the bar, the best cello guy in the world will go back to his room 30 to 45 minutes every night and practice the basics. And I was just blown away by that, because I was like, man, that's the same exact thing in the martial arts.
Man, it gives me chills hearing that.
Yeah. So I was like, man, this was so neat to me, how, and this was a week after I got back, but just to see the best guy in the world, and he still focuses on the basics. And you think about martial arts, man, that's the same exact thing that everything boils back down to, So anyways.
What a great story, man. Thanks for sharing that. Like I said, it gave me chills, because it's just the magnitude of that. He could be doing all these other things, and what does he do? Goes back to the foundation, the basics, and spending the time there. It's amazing. It's great.
Yeah, I was so thrilled with that. But yeah, other than that, just I hate talking about the security stuff, because it sounds like I'm bragging. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I just really just say I've been blessed in a sense that I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing today in every respect. You know what I mean? So anyway.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you sharing the one, and we'll move on from there. But sounds like you've had a really great time at it and been able to do some incredible things and some incredible adventures. Let's talk about I know you've mentioned some people that have been very instrumental in your life and your development, like Master Sauer and Frank Cucci, Master Irvin and Henner. Who else? Who are some of the people that's had the biggest impact in your life? And this could be, jiu-jitsu, or this could be in your personal life.
I think Frank Cucci I owe everything to, of course, as far as my skills in the arts and just being a leader to follow and, try to emulate. Frank's the guy that took me from zero and put me where I'm at. But the second person is a guy named Joe Gray. He's from Richmond. He owns a school called World Class Martial Arts, and he's been the guy that really shaped my future, in a sense that he's an incredible businessman and understands how to run an academy, which I don't. And Joe's actually the guy that has steered me in the direction to make some choice business sense with the ideas I have. You know what I mean? So he's taken my ideas and actually put them in action. So I'm not having to shut the doors because I'm trying to do this or this, So I'd have to say Joe Gray is one of the biggest guys that's helped me through my life. Other than that, Frank, Joe, all these guys that have helped me, Pedro, Eddie Camden, Pat Trey, Master Chai, all these guys have been an integral part in shaping what I do. But I have a lot of guys that I could thank for where I'm at in life. But basically, on my phone are those two guys that I talk to all the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, it's been a hard journey, not easy, but through having friends that do what you do and having them try things and not work, and then being able to tell you, has helped me basically shorten the journey. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Their insight and experience has served you well. And it sounds like you've had some really great influences and people in your life to draw from and to be a part of that journey with you. So excellent.
Yeah. And, it continues on. Like I said, I don't think I'm successful in the sense that on the school side, because I honestly want this whole thing to be, I want it to be way more efficient, way bigger, way everything. So we'll see what happens in the future. But I have a vision that, with the merging of the CTC, that this thing's just going to be way more in tune with what I want now. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Great things ahead for sure.
Great things ahead. Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
So as we're getting close to coming to the end here, do you have a favorite quote or motto that you really like or that you live by?
Yeah. I think I've I've said this to you in the past, or Sonny or one of the guys I just live for today. This could be your last day on earth. So live it like it is. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. I like that motto. And, I try to look at that. A lot of people have bucket lists. I've never had a bucket list because I pretty much do what I want to do. You know what I mean? So if it's whether it's skydiving to whatever, I've done it or did it, and will continue to do it. So just live for today, man, and try to take the lessons of the martial arts and look at everything positive. Everybody has the negative in their life. I have Facebook, and everything I post on Facebook, I try to make it a positive thing, and if somebody puts negative stuff on my Facebook, I don't defriend them. I just take them and stop following them. And you look at my feed, it's all jiu-jitsu and all positive. So every time I'm looking at Facebook, I'm looking at positive, motivating things. Everything in my life, I try to keep positive. That's the whole thing. And I think martial arts has allowed me to do that, through the lessons that we learn on the mats. So
absolutely. And it's one thing I really like about being in contact with you, that positive energy. And on your Facebook, it's great. You, as well as lots of other people I'm aligned with, always putting positive things out there. And it really makes a difference for people. At any given time, you can be spreading negativity or positivity. And that's the way to touch lives and make a difference. So it is something I appreciate about you. You mentioned Sonny, he made me promise to tell you hello, by the way. So
yeah, I love that guy. I hope he does well. And, I'm going to take a trip to see you guys as soon as he's up and running. And yeah, great guy. And it's so funny how small the martial arts world really is. I met him years ago, and then we crossed paths again. But, yeah, if you need anything from me in the future, let me know. I hope to help you as well as all the other guys, in this association, whatever. So call for anything. I'm there for you.
Will do. Before we close, I want to put your website out, as well as if there's anybody that you haven't acknowledged or thanked so far, anybody that you might want to include, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, just give us your website, and we'll go from there.
I mean, I'd love to include everybody in the associations that I have, and the main person that runs this side of the show is Melissa Snyder. She's the backbone to what's going on, allows me to do the things I do. So I'd have to thank her as well. But other than that, thank you for having me. And, my website's www.evolveacademy.com. I'm located in Gaithersburg, Maryland, but there's, we have a bunch of affiliates that you can find on the website as well. But anybody that's near this area, please come in, please train, and come on the mats, and I promise you'll have a great time. Yeah, but thanks again for having me.
My pleasure, sir. And thank you for taking time and letting us get to know you better. I'm sure the listeners are really going to benefit greatly from it.
Well, I hope it wasn't too boring for you. No,
that's great. I wish you all continued success, man, and a long, healthy life.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Really enjoyed that interview with Mike Moses. Such an awesome individual. Stay tuned now for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. Okay, time for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. And let's start with a quote. Don't raise your voice, improve your argument. And that's from an anonymous source. So I love this quote, and it can be applied to our everyday life as well as in jiu-jitsu. I love the analogy or the comparison between jiu-jitsu and learning a language. Roy Dean does this quite well as others I've heard. But the analogy basically talks about, if you see it in terms of language, when you're learning jiu-jitsu, you first learn a word or a technique. Then you learn to formulate sentences, put those words into sentences, so learning how to stream techniques together. And then finally, having a conversation or a debate, which would be rolling. So, of course, as you progress, you get to where you can have the conversation more freely. And when you've had that same conversation over and over, but with different people, i.e. rolling with different people, you're able to make those points or argue those points a lot more smoothly with less effort. You don't have to think about the sentences you're going to formulate to make that argument or to use in that debate. So very similar to jiu-jitsu. The more skilled we get, the more we learn to string those techniques and everything together, the better we become in using that. Applied to our personal life, again, don't raise your voice, improve your argument. A lot of us tend to, if we're in the middle of a conversation and it seems like the person's not hearing us, just not getting it, not understanding what we're saying. A lot of us tend to just make the same points, but just louder, raising our voice, as if perhaps if we say it louder, the person will magically understand what we're trying to say, which of course doesn't happen. It just serves to create more intensity in the situation. If, however, we learn to step back and become more technical or learn to articulate our points better, then perhaps the person we're talking with may indeed understand what we're trying to say. So instead of trying to push through, we get more technical. Bringing this back to jiu-jitsu, raising your voice is kind of equal to just pushing through, trying to impose your will, trying to muscle through something, which we all know doesn't work very much or very often, compared to becoming a lot more technical and improving our argument, using more technique. So as you go through your day, your week, your month, I invite you to remember this quote and apply it to your personal life, your professional life, and your jiu-jitsu life. Don't raise your voice, improve your argument. And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I thank you for listening. I appreciate all feedback, so if you have feedback, please don't hesitate to give it. If you have ideas for the show or for guests, please let me know about those. You can leave feedback on the website at www.graciejujitsurocks.com. You can also leave feedback on iTunes, and while you're there, make sure to rate the show. It helps us with our standing in iTunes. If you haven't liked us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, please go ahead and do that. And don't forget to share the episodes on your Facebook and social media. Again, thanks again for listening, and until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.